The lesson.
Oh yeah.
Before you met Nerve, you were obviously listening to hip hop and you were still interested in the scene, but you weren't really involved in it?
Yeah, I grew up pretty heavy on Aussie hip hop culture. You know, it was pretty big spin out. Like, I grew up listening to people like Greeley, and then here we were, 19, getting hit up to go on tour, to go meet up with them. I grew up with the Smash Brothers, like Fraksha, Scotty Hines, Dime. Like, me and my mates from school used to always bump that shit. So then meeting Toby, it became a good bridge for that, because obviously he started doing the grime rap and like boom bap heavy. And at that point we weren't NO.ONE network either. Greeley reached out to us and said, "Do you want to come to Tassie? Got this cool guy, Wombat, you could work with." And that was awesome. I remember we were living in the house together and he showed me that one of our first Wombat tracks, and we're like, holy fuck, like, we need to link that up. And they started getting Toby to help out with some audio engineering stuff. And then around the same time, Fraksha reached out and was doing these grime, the 50/50 shows. And that was nothing like what we had in Brisbane. And being a Brisbane kid, you definitely see Melbourne as this like massive cultural city. So it was like pretty exciting, you know, that we could maybe go down there and perform with all these people that, you know, been listening to, growing up with. And yeah, I just had a conversation with Toby and I was like, let's fucking do it. Let's hit Tasmania first, and then we'll go to Victoria and do Melbourne, link up with all these guys. And that was like just before NO.ONE network.
Yeah, right. Okay, so when Greeley hit you up about the Wombat thing, and when you were talking to Fraksha and that about the 50/50 grime, you were already friends with Nerve at that point.
Yeah, we were living in a house together, yeah.
Okay, so then how did you and Nerve first meet?
I had a mutual mate. I used to have like a photography platform called 9 to 5, and it was kind of like an irony of like the 9 to 5 lifestyle, kind of a little counterculture platform. And I just used to be like, you know, going into the drains and the rooftops and just general young delinquent culture. And yeah, he was doing the hip hop thing with the Syntax Junkies crew, and they needed a photographer for one of their gigs. And yeah, rocked up, and it was just your classic Aussie hip hop kind of, you know, when it was still fizzling and like getting there. It was after the golden era and stuff. So I just rocked up, and it was a small show, and did my thing and met Toby and the Syntax boys, and I'd been seeing their stuff on the internet too, so I was stoked to be able to kind of link it up. That was one of those elements that I hadn't really documented yet. And I'd done like nightlife jobs and stuff like that and fucking hated it, like that kind of mainstream R.M. William boy shit. So it was like really cool to have this like crew who I thought were contributing a sound that I hadn't heard before. And then from there it kind of built. And I was living at a share house where we were doing a lot of the videos. So we were all running through, you know, like the big setups in the house, all the posters and all the shit. Like a lot of those houses were mine. I went through like 7 houses in 7 years.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, and I think like the 4th or 5th one was where I kind of reached out to Toby and was like, look, do you want to move in? Could be pretty fun. You know, we just met Skrub. Skrub was 16, so we had this one house where a lot of the Syntax boys would all link up, and then we would have Skrub on the couch sleeping, and yeah, we'd like do parties underneath the house. Because like Queenslanders, you have like a big bottom underneath.
Yeah.
Because they're all on stilts.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, it was just fucking sick, because it was like, obviously my whole thing was wanting to document this culture, and then to have Toby and the boys in this almost headquarters for it all to be. So we'd put on, you know, bring all the decks, PA systems, boys would rap, freestyle, I'd document it all. And yeah, we had things called mic nights that we would run, and yeah, it was pretty cool. And
yeah, right.
Kind of built from there. And Toby Nerve always backed my shit. So when he started stepping out into Nerve, after they did this massive fucking album for Syntax, which took like 3 or 4 years from when they were growing up together, he like started to look towards Nerve and doing things as a single artist. And yeah, so he always backed me and I always backed him, and it was cool. Like that house, when it all came together, was kind of the big stepping stone.
Yeah, no shit. So basically, Nerve was in a group called Syntax Junkies, and when he was in that group, they needed someone to film their shit, and that's how you first met them.
Kinda, I was almost like, I was like there to document photos at a gig, and then I kind of got involved and was like, can I come hang out at the studio? You know, and then kind of started throwing in little ideas. Toby needed a one take done for him and his mate, Jolly Rotten. And that was when they were just Thought Junkies. So you had Syntax here and Thought Junkies, and they joined. And I came and did this one take in the studio. And they were like, yeah, we just need someone to hold the camera pretty much. And I did this little weird little pan, you know, going along all the records, and then the light, and then dropping down and going in and doing these weird shakes and shit. And that wasn't really what anyone asked for, but I kind of had a bit of fun with it. And we chucked it on Facebook and it popped off. And that kind of started a fire for running these crazy one takes that, you know, instead of just standing in front of a wall. And that was a pretty common thing was, hey, Golly, can we just stand in front of a wall and do our rap thing? And I would be like, nah, we're going to fucking start in the basement, run up the stairs, and then you're going to go through this hallway. And yeah, so I think that was when I kind of was stepping out of just kind of doing the photos and the videos for them, but actually kind of contributing to, you know, what we represented and the lifestyle and pitching that into the music, you know, and kind of trying to do something different that people weren't doing at the time.
The lesson. 927. Oh, yeah.